gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Political Smackdown. I'm Andy Devin, I'm your host this week, and we've got our crew back. Betsy, good to have you back.
Thank you.
You've been on grandchildren duty, I'm sure.
Yes, I have.
So that's what Roger figured. He said it takes one to know one.
And I've rested for the whole week since I've been back.
Oh, that's good.
Recovery.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
I bet so. All right, let's get going here. This past week, Charlotte City Council voted 7-3 to approve spending $650 million to remodel the 30-year-old Bank of America Stadium. Wes, I hear there's a football team that shows up there in the fall. I don't know much about them, but they don't make much of a
I don't know
headway.
if it's a football team, but
Anyway, this funding is coming from a hospitality fund collected by a 1% tax on prepared meals and 3% on the occupancy tax. Right up your alley, Michael. But you know, there's always this kind of a debate, Wes, about is this the right thing for government to be doing? I mean, let's face it, you've got a billionaire team owner, you got millionaire players. Is the taxpayers, I mean, do we get enough out of this that it's worth that investment? The Chamber of Commerce says so, and a lot of other, the hospitality industry does too. So what's in it for the rest of us?
well, Andy, it's a multi-billionaire who's investing $150 million. Last week we were talking about education and the voucher program, which was what, about this same amount of money going toward education, but yet City Council is going to spend this on a football stadium that's not that old and in good shape. You know, Panther Stadium is not the largest stadium in the Carolinas. Let's think about the two larger stadiums that exist. Memorial Stadium at Clemson was built in 1941. Williams-Brice, which we call it Billy Brice, opened in 1934. Keenan Stadium is much smaller. It opened in 1927. The largest stadium in the country, Michigan, was also built in 1927. Those stadiums don't need $650 million of tax dollars to be full every weekend. Panther Stadium has a hard time filling up for kickoff of a single game. I think it's a waste of money.
Well, Betsy, a lot of people don't particularly care for Mr. Tepper anyway, after the way he's not done a whole lot to create goodwill. He was going to have that multi-million-dollar practice field, Rock Hill, that he's just walked away from, that's just sitting there, just like some kind of derelict building that I think they've started tearing it down, selling scrap off of it. But he's thrown drinks at fans in other stadiums. I mean, even had one restaurant in Charlotte that put up on their billboard when the draft was getting ready to come, said, "Mr. Tepper, please let the coach pick." And he whooped in there and challenged the guy. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a guy owned his own restaurant that owned his billboard, didn't say anything rude or crude or derogatory other than his opinion about Mr. Tepper's football skills, which are none. So, I mean, is this something that we really should do? Now, a lot of people say, you know, this is not actually a tax on the people, that unless they go out to eat and then a hotel room or something like that. I don't know. Is this really where we need to be putting our money?
Well, and of course, he's not going to win the Person or the Year award. He won't be on Time magazine front cover. He has these little temper tantrums like some other person that I can think of at the national level. And of course, and that's a concern, Andy, that the fact that he walked out on that big deal in Rock Hill in 2022, and he's worth like $20.6 billion. And yet what he says that in order for the people of Charlotte to really participate in going to the games, that they got to have skin in the fight. And so that's what, and they say this is going to come from the hospitality taxes and the meals and the hotels. And I like to go to Panther Stadium and watch them play. My son is an avid football fan of Panthers, and I go about every season with him. And it's great to have a professional football team in Charlotte. Now, I don't know if I were in the Charlotte city limits and paying the taxes, I'd probably complain and say no. But where I live, out on Dixon School Road, a mile and a half below the casino, I enjoy going over there. So I hope that it's nice to have better, improved bathrooms and the escalators, and talking about new seats throughout, and improved lighting and all this that they can use the money for. And something about they were going to have a magnet field out there that they could even teach classes or something, or have events outside. I mean, we'll just see. It's supposed to really bring money to Charlotte.
Well, Mike, I was down there when Charlotte-Mecklenburg came for the prepared meals tax. And,
Is that an Andy Dedman tax?
I was there. I did not author it. If I remember right, it was a Republican who wrote that one. So, you look at this thing, and we were talking earlier about the other sports team, the Hornets, that seems like couldn't win, a season. I mean, if we could just have a winning season for either one of these teams, but look at the amount of attention that it draws. I mean, if they were going to do something at Bank of America Stadium, they ought to see about some big parking decks. That would probably do more to help them than anything.
I think parking and mobility in and out of the stadium for parking is a big issue anytime you put something in an old uptown or downtown, because you got all these buildings and you got all kind of scattered parking for business. But anyway, but I'm just going to have a reality check. I don't particularly disagree even with Wes that it shouldn't be. But I don't even think we ought to be having the state and the counties and the cities giving industries money from their taxpayers to locate there. It should be based on low property tax rates, good government, reasonable regulation, good workforce that use things like the community college to prepare. But it's not the world we live in. Wes, as much as he hated it, served and did the best he could to help Cleveland County when he had an opportunity on the Rural Infrastructure Board that gives away government money to private industry. The Panthers is big industry for North Carolina. And if you want to keep a professional football team here, unfortunately, this is the world we live in. The occupancy tax is not generally paid by the people that live in Mecklenburg County. It's generally paid by the people that come to the game in Charlotte for a lot of other things. And the prepared foods tax is voluntary if you want to go out to eat there. It's not like it's the property tax that you don't have a choice to pay. That's the source of this money. So, I mean, I'm not wild about it, but I just recognize it's the reality of the world we live in. And if you want to keep a professional football team in the Carolinas, that's probably just one way or another. You got to do this periodically, I guess. And Tepper was going to threaten to leave if they didn't do it. And, Tepper might be good riddance, but we'd like him to leave his football team and somebody to own it that would make it a winner when he's gone.
Well, and that's sort of the way I feel about it, because, he knows how to make money. I mean, his Appaloosa fund has made a lot of people a lot of money over the years. So he must know what he's doing. I see him on CNBC every once in a while. But when you get down to it, to the average person, how many people actually are out of Charlotte-Mecklenburg go regularly to these games and support them? I mean, all right, let's look at Spectrum Arena. How do you get in there? You've got a parking deck right beside it, and good night. If you leave or try to get out of there when it's out, I mean, you're going to sit there a good hour. Now, you can take the links and take that, but still, the closest parking lot that I was using, it took an hour to get there, even up riding, because it's stopping every 10 feet, it seems like.
I still say, in spite of the transfer portal and NIL, college football is, and basketball is far more exciting, far more attractive, far more people attend on a regular basis, and they don't make these investments. In the case of Clemson, all the stadium upgrades have come from IPTAY, from private donors, not tax money. And if they can do it in a stadium that is half the population of Shelby bigger, Williams-Brice, these stadiums that are approaching 100 years old, I don't see why it takes this investment to have the amenities to attract the people. If that's what it takes, it's not football, it's amenities.
Well, and I can't help but wonder, what do they do in these older stadiums like Lambeau Field in Green Bay? It's been there. I mean, what,
Seems to work fine.
yeah,
People love it.
I mean, I don't understand, or Soldier Field in Chicago. I mean, I don't understand what it would take with these stadiums that have been there for so long. And we've already had, if I remember correctly, one remodel at Bank of America. It wasn't,
Two, I think.
It wasn't as big as this is,
Right.
but they have gone and tweaked some stuff, added some
Added
restaurants.
the escalators.
The escalators, that sort of thing. I think they replaced the scoreboard and some other stuff like that. But I don't know. It's one of those things that's going to always be a question for a lot of people about, is this proper use of money?
And you can't blame Tepper for asking.
Oh,
He's a business person.
Oh, I
They're
don't.
willing to give him
Right.
$500 million. I don't blame him for taking it.
Well, there's a reason why he's worth that, and that's not by paying his own bills.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to our next question. The fight over allowing medical use of marijuana finally passed the Senate this week. Senator Bill Rabin has pushed this for years because of his own use while he was fighting cancer. It's a little odd to me, Betsy, that some of these very conservative folks are in favor of this in the Senate, but you get over the House, it seems like there's really not much interest in it. You know, where's this issue going to go this session? It seems like the Senate and the House don't communicate very well these days. So, I mean, what happens with it? And is this really something that maybe its time has come? Because it is in a lot of other states.
Oh, I think that the time has come. I really do, for medical marijuana in North Carolina. And you've got to give it to Senator Bill Rabin. He has been the person on the bandwagon for this bill ever since he had to deal with his own personal battle with cancer. And, you know, like Tim Moore, when they interviewed Speaker Moore, he said there hadn't been any discussion in the House. And last year, there was 37 House Republicans that were in favor of it. So you have to have a majority of the House members before they'll bring it forward. So you see the input from the conservatives is in the Senate. So is it going to die in the House? Will they just not take it up? But for those people battling cancer or PTSD, extreme, cancer, PTSD, and extreme epilepsy, they said would really benefit. So, you know, if it were my family and people were dying with cancer, you know, I'd probably want to do everything I could to alleviate their pain. So I'm in favor of it, and I wish they'd pass it. I mean, other states have done it, and I know the argument against, well, marijuana is just a gateway to a drug, to more drugs, but this is for medical purposes.
Well, Wes, I mean, you can already buy it in North Carolina if you want to go up to Cherokee. I mean, they'll sell you some pot and they'll take your money at a blackjack table too. I mean, they're nonstop. They're going to take care of you any way you go. But when you look at this and you see how cancer affects so many people, and if this is something with it's just the THC, it's the active ingredient, that we can come something like that could give these people some relief. How is that really any different than we give them Oxycontin or anything like that? This is something that can help with their eating habits, to try to where they feel more like eating, where they've got the nausea more under control. I mean, I think it's just got a bad rap because all they could think of was Woodstock back in the 60s, and that's what's in the back of everybody's mind. But this could really be helpful for a lot of people.
Well, one word answer: politics.
Yep.
That's why the reality. I think there's a de facto legalized marijuana. That's one of those things that, unless there's an arrest for something else, unless there's a problem, it sort of just goes on. And so marijuana is routine. I read a report the other day, more people smoke marijuana than drink alcohol, which
Really?
I found a fascinating statistic. The reality is this goes nowhere in the House. It's not passed this year. I think it's worthy of consideration. And don't forget, Rabin, he's bringing this from personal experience, and he is a doctor. He's a veterinarian. This is not somebody just off the street that doesn't have medical training. He does. So I think it's a valid consideration, but I think it's dead in the House.
Well, Mike, here we go again with something that it's really been a watershed change in the public's opinion of this. And let's face it, what little bit I've been around, that's the stinking stuff. I don't see how you can stand to be around. To me, it's more obnoxious than cigarette smoke. But if there's other ways we can get a delivery system that helps these people, isn't it incumbent upon the elected members to try to consider that?
Well, I heard Speaker Moore say when a majority of the Republican House members are for it, he will bring it up, but he will not without a majority. It would pass the House with a number of Republican votes because most of the Democrats would vote for it. But the Speaker is committed in his relationship with his caucus not to bring to the floor this type of bill because you have the social conservatives and the religious conservative, I guess that's the same thing, who just believe marijuana is wrong to use, period. For medical purposes, I don't really have a problem with it. I have some question about recreational use because it's just one other way people can get high and drive and stuff like that. But 38 states allow it for medical use, and of those, 24 of those states allow it, period, now. And all this has happened in the last 20 years, basically. So I think sooner or later you'll at least get medicinal, but I don't know. I will tell you that it has passed the Senate. So even though they temporarily adjourn on June 29th, the day after we're taping this, they're going to be coming back every month to see what they can do between now and the end of the year. So, and that'll be one of the things, because it's passed one house, that could be brought up. But I got my doubts it makes it this year too.
Andy, I know we're short on time, but one other point I think is interesting. A lot of the same people that support marijuana use, whether it's medicinal or otherwise, are also against cigarettes and vaping. And there seems to be a great dichotomy there that I really don't understand. But
Well, it's like you said earlier, it's politics.
Absolutely.
And it's always odd. Well, folks, we've run over a little bit, but we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the second half of Political Smackdown.
Tune in to Senior Moments here on C19 TV. I am Jackie Sibley Newton with Terabella Assisted Living. Whether you are a senior planning for your own future or helping someone make decisions, Senior Moments has got information to share. We talk about the wealth of services, activities, and healthy living options available to you here in our area. That's Senior Moments on C19 and also on C19.tv.
And welcome back to Political Smackdown. Okay, last few primaries of this season were held this week, Mike. The first loss by an incumbent in this cycle was Representative Bowman from New York, who has aligned himself with the left-wing squad. AOC, your favorite congresswoman, leads that pack, I do believe. And he was beaten by a moderate county commissioner from Westchester County in New York. Could it be possibly that the Democrat Party is starting maybe to moderate a little bit where we're not jumping for these real falling off the edge types?
Well, one could hope so, but Andy, one election does not a moderation of the Democratic Party make.
I'll grab at anything I can these days, Michael.
It's a start.
Now, there is another squad member, Corey Bush, in Missouri, who has yet to have a primary, and according to The Hill and other places this week, that race has tightened and she could conceivably use. If you get 2 or 3 like that, then maybe, yeah, you could see it come back a little closer to the center, but I don't think we can really say that at this point. This one in New York was over the far left squad's endorsement of Hamas over Israel and attracted $14 million in Jewish PAC money to a House race. I believe the man learned that the Jewish people would like for him not to say that Hamas was righteous because they are evil.
Well, and that was really what it boiled down to, Betsy. I mean,
Right.
you've got, the Jewish PACs are usually so well funded and so organized. And, that's always been a fairly reliable Democratic base for us. And now you've got these people that seem like they're just hell-bent on beating the Jewish vote off and just saying outrageous things about this thing about Hamas and that sort of thing. And it boggles my mind that people see Israel as the boogeyman in all this. And somebody's not paying close attention to where all this started and what's gone on since. And it bothers me that we see some of our folks, for some reason, have jumped to that side that you and I do not agree with. Well, I think we've both been very loud about our feelings about Israel. But is this something that maybe it's time that we had a little bit of a reset within our own party?
Maybe so. Representative Bowman came to the office, and he'd always been this strong Hamas supporter, and he voted against the resolution that the House resolution affirming the House stood with Israel following the attack by Hamas that killed over 1,000 people. He voted against it. He also opposed President Biden's infrastructure law. He voted against raising the debt ceiling. He also alarmed his constituents when he pulled the fire alarm there at the House and ended up with being charged and got a misdemeanor. I think the results of this election pertains to with the personality of the person running and his stands, and then the amount of money that came in from the $14 million for a House race in a state, not even a state, a national race. But I hope it does mean that we are electing more mainstream Democrats.
Well, Wes, the gentleman that beat him was a very well-liked, they call them county executive, we call them county commissioners, that was very well thought of and was very thoughtful about his positions. So what do you think? Is there hope for my party?
No.
I knew that was coming.
Bowman, like the rest of the squad, he's a nut. Goes in, pulls the fire alarm, just complete racist. There's no other way to describe these people that are so anti-Israel and pro-Hamas. It's racism, pure and simple. And it's hard to be anti-Jewish and be elected in New York.
I would say.
And I think they found that out. But no, y'all are not moderating or doing any
Wes
better
is
at
a
all.
little more direct when it's in New York instead of North Carolina.
Yeah, he's kind of funny about that kind of stuff. Maybe we need to talk about marijuana a little bit more. Maybe we can get that libertarian streak in him.
And his Bowman's district was changed, for this election too. Keep that in mind.
If we can get the rest of the squad out, then I might have some hope for
Well,
your party. But I don't see it happening.
I really thought AOC was going to have more of a tussle, but she blew that guy away.
Yeah.
She got
Really
80%,
easy.
80+%.
She did.
Well, folks, that's all we've got on that one. Let's move on to our lightning round. Betsy, what you got for us today?
I've got something very personal. I'd like to congratulate my sister Nancy and my brother-in-law Alan Clay in Lenore on their 50th wedding anniversary this coming Saturday. And Alan is related to the Clays here in Shelby. He's a cousin. But congratulations, Nancy and Alan, on 50 years of marriage.
Well, that's great. Wes, what you got?
Happy anniversary to them, Betsy. Well, today is the 265th day Americans have been held hostage by Hamas. But you know, as we approach the 4th of July, few have considered our national anthem. The verse that we sing is the only national anthem in the world that ends in a question. Does the banner still wave? That's because the American experiment is always an open-ended question. And as you celebrate Independence Day this week, I hope you'll ponder the question, one that requires action on our part. May we continue to answer the question with an energetic yes, contemplating the final verse of the song, then conquer we must when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, and God is our trust, and the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. We hope you have a nice holiday. Andy?
All right, Mike.
Well, by the time you see this show, the North Carolina General Assembly will have adjourned on June the 29th, but it's not sine die, Andy.
Nope.
They're adjourning the regular session subject to coming back on Wednesday, July the 10th, and there's 9 different things they can do. Then they'll adjourn that, and they'll come back Thursday, August the 1st. Then they'll adjourn that, and they'll come back September the 25th. One of the things they can do when they come back is adopt conference reports, so they might yet have hope for a budget. Yeah. Then when they do that one, they're not coming back till November 18th after the election. And then they're coming back on December 30th, after which the conclusion it'll be sine die. I guess it will. The year will be over, and it'll be a new legislature.
Yeah. But, you know,
it's never over anymore, is it?
Well, see, and that's the thing about it, and Wes, you serve, and you know how that place runs, that we never took a break. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a smarter way to do it because it's giving people opportunity to have a life outside that place. When I was there, Jim Black believed that you didn't leave till all the work was done. Mm-hmm. Whether you had anything to do or not, whether you was on a conference committee or what, and the rest of us sat there and twiddled our thumbs waiting on somebody to do something. I think this is a wiser, better way to manage it for no other reason than just to give people a life out of it. And let's face it, there's no hotter place in the world than Raleigh in June and July.
It's miserable.
It's miserable. And especially us guys that by rule have to wear a coat and tie.
I listened to it briefly yesterday, not long, but the speaker made the point that it's okay to get up and move around or whatever because I know it's about 10 degrees too warm in here. I heard him say that.
Well, it happens. That air conditioner was replaced while I was there one time, and it just
well, y'all apparently didn't get it right.
Well,
it's worn out with all the hot air.
Ain't that the truth?
Well, Andy, they can come back for a lot of things, but conference reports is one. Any bill that passed one house is another. To consider any vetoes. There's a whole list of things they can do, but you're right. They're taking two weeks off now and then a month at a time where they come back for probably 1, 2, 3 days.
But they still have to every third day run somebody in there actually and start the session, then they end it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's kind of a kabuki theater in some ways doing all that. Well, folks, that's all we got time for this week. Hope you've learned a little something, and it's our sincere wish that you have a very happy 4th of July. And we'll be back again with a new edition of Political Smackdown.
America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He gave me a crown not good. Yes, he did. Heavy brotherhood from sea to
Hello, I'm Jason Hurst, and I have the great honor and privilege of serving as president of Cleveland Community College. And I want to thank you for watching C19 TV, Cleveland County's hometown channel.